Have you ever felt like you're trapped in a nightmare you just can't wake up from? A place where every step you take feels like someone else is pulling the strings, where their voice echoes in your head, making you doubt yourself. But you can't quite point to who's holding the puppet strings. Welcome to the world of the narcissist, masters of manipulation, the ones who turn your life into a stage where they're the only director. But today we're not here to watch their show. We're here to tear up the script, burn the stage and walk out of the shadows they've kept you in for far too long. This isn't just a story, this is a revolution in your mind. And I'll be with you every step of the way. Imagine for a second. You're standing in front of a mirror, but the reflection staring back isn't you. It's the version they want you to see, a weaker, dependent version of yourself that needs their approval just to feel like you exist. A narcissist isn't just someone who's arrogant or flashy. That's just the mask they wear to cover something much more disturbing. They are people who survive on control. They need you, your presence, your emotions, even your pain to feed their fragile ego. They're like psychological parasites, clinging to you to keep themselves alive. And they do it with something deceptively simple yet deadly: closeness. Closeness, physical, psychological, emotional, is their lifeline. They need you within reach so they can twist your reality, keep you confused and make you dependent. But here's what they don't want you to know. Distance, true distance, not just physical, but mental and emotional, is the blade that can cut every cord they've tied around you. It doesn't just disrupt their game, it destroys the entire world they've built on your sacrifice. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. How they control you, the tools they use to trap you, the power of distance to dismantle their hold, the role of emotional detachment, and ultimately the path to reclaiming your life, stronger and freer than ever before. This isn't a video to just watch casually. It's for those who are tired of living in someone else's shadow, for those who want deep understanding, who want to break the chains and step into the light with their head held high. Get ready, because we're going deep, very deep, into the mind of the narcissist and how you can be the one to bring their world crashing down. No countdown clock, no rush. Just you, me, and the truth, waiting to be revealed. So sit down, take a deep breath, and let's begin. Your freedom is not a dream. It starts right now. Think of closeness as a live wire, a direct circuit running from the narcissist's mind straight into yours. When you're within their reach, whether sitting across from them in a room, hearing their voice over the phone, or feeling their presence through a flood of texts, they can flip the switch anytime, sending waves of manipulation straight into you. This isn't the closeness of love or genuine connection. It's a cold tool, a weapon crafted to keep you within their control. Why is closeness so important to them? Because without it, they can't do what they do best: bend your reality, regulate your emotions, and turn you into a puppet in their twisted play. Let's break it down further. First, closeness allows them to shape your perception, how you see the world, how you see yourself, even how you remember your past. They need to be near you to impose their version of reality onto yours. And they do this through a technique called gaslighting, a word that may sound simple, but it's one of their most ruthless tools. "I never said that," they insist, even though you remember exactly when and how they did. "You're just imagining things," they add, with just enough of a smile to make you question your own sanity. When they're close, they can repeat this cycle over and over, day after day, week after week, until you no longer trust your memory, you start doubting your judgment, your intuition, and eventually you see them as the only source of truth. That's no accident. It's a calculated strategy to make you dependent, to turn you into someone who can't stand on their own without their guidance. But that's just the beginning. Closeness is also how they regulate your emotions. Subtly, systematically, and mercilessly, they watch you like a predator watches prey. How your shoulders slump when they criticize you, how your voice trembles when they go silent, how your eyes light up when they suddenly act kind. They know exactly when to press down, throwing in a sharp insult like, "You always mess everything up," just to shrink you down. They know when to pull away, going silent for hours or even days, so you spiral into self-blame, wondering what you did wrong. And they know when to fake remorse, hug you, say just the right sweet words, long enough to make you forget the wounds they just inflicted. Closeness gives them real-time access to your emotional state. You become a control panel they can push at will. Ever walked away from a conversation with them feeling drained, confused, or completely empty? That's not random. That's because they've siphoned your energy, and they can only do that when you're near. Let's go even further. Closeness doesn't just let them control you. It allows them to control the world around you. They use social reinforcement as an auxiliary weapon, subtle but incredibly effective. When they're close, they can whisper in your friends' ears that you're too sensitive, tell co-workers you're unreliable, or convince family members that you're the problem. They don't do this randomly. They do it to isolate you, to erode your credibility in the eyes of others. In today's world, where relationships and social networks matter more than ever, this is especially dangerous. They turn the people around you into unwitting allies, building a circle that leaves you feeling trapped with no escape. Have you ever found yourself explaining yourself to others because of things they've said about you? That's a sign they've succeeded. They've made your environment part of their control system. And let's not forget the practical side, financial and logistical control. They might hold the money, making you believe that leaving means losing everything. They might keep you in a job where you can't grow, constantly reminding you no one else would ever accept you. They might use shared obligations, kids, projects, responsibilities to build a web that feels impossible to escape. This isn't just emotional dependency, it's material dependency, crafted to keep you within reach. They don't want you to have any other option but to stay. Because if you can physically walk away, you might start to think about leaving mentally too. Let's be clear. Closeness is not a coincidence. It's their lifeline. They need you within arm's reach for their manipulation machine to run smoothly. They don't just want you close, they can't survive without you. They're like a flame that needs oxygen. Without you, they're just a flicker, waiting to burn out. So what happens when you take that oxygen away, when you disconnect completely? We'll get there soon. But first, let's take a closer look at the tools they use to keep you in their fire, the invisible cords they've wrapped around you. Now, let's step into the narcissist's psychological arsenal, the place where they keep their sharpest weapons to keep you bound: guilt, fear, and obligation. These aren't random emotions or natural reactions you were born with. They are blades, carefully forged over time, designed to pierce the most vulnerable parts of you, those hidden soft spots where pain lives quietly. They don't just want you to stay, they want you to feel like leaving is impossible, like you're trapped in a prison you unknowingly helped them build. Let's break down each tool so you can see exactly how they work and why they're so effective. First comes guilt, a weapon so powerful it can lock you in place without them lifting another finger. They plant the idea that you're responsible for everything in their life, their happiness, their failures, even their very existence. If I'm suffering, it's because of you, they'll say, either directly or through icy stares and guilt-laced silences. They make you feel like their problems are your fault, that if you were just better, tried harder, sacrificed more, they'd be okay. And in a world that teaches us selflessness and responsibility for others, this tactic hits especially hard. You've learned that caring is good, that abandoning someone is wrong, and they exploit that mercilessly. They make you believe that setting boundaries is selfish, that walking away is a betrayal of your values. But here's a truth you must etch into your soul. You are not responsible for them. That guilt isn't yours to carry. It's a trap meant to keep you within reach, binding you with invisible chains they don't even have to hold. Next is fear, a subtler but equally brutal tool because it attacks your survival instincts. They don't always need to issue direct threats, though sometimes they do. If you leave me, I'll destroy you, or you'll regret this. More often, they simply plant seeds of doubt that grow like poisonous weeds in your mind. You're nothing without me, they say. Who else would want you? Do you really think you can stand on your own? They amplify your deepest fears. fear of failure, fear of loneliness, fear of abandonment. They make you believe the world outside their control is cold and unforgiving, a place where you will fall apart without them. And in a society where independence and success are tied to self-worth, their words cut straight into your self-esteem, making you wonder if you're truly capable of freedom. But stop and see clearly. That fear isn't real, it's an illusion they created to keep you paralyzed, so you'll choose the safety of your prison over the uncertainty of your liberation. Then comes obligation, perhaps the strongest rope of all, because it twists gratitude into a burden you feel you can't ever shake off. Of sacrifice for you, they say, listing favors they may have never truly done, or exaggerating them into grand acts of martyrdom. You owe me, they insist, as if your life is a debt you're destined to repay forever. They make you feel like leaving is betrayal, like you're turning your back on everything they did for you, even when those so-called sacrifices were just tools of control. And again, in a world that teaches us to value loyalty and duty, this tactic works painfully well. They turn relationships, family, friendships, even work, into contracts you're not allowed to break without feeling like the villain. But look closer. This obligation isn't mutual exchange. It's a noose, tightening every time you try to break free. They don't care about genuine sacrifice. They care about keeping you close. Beyond these three pillars, narcissists have other tools to reinforce the walls of your mental prison. Extra layers to make sure you don't escape. Or they let it slip that they're considering someone else, a potential replacement. This preys on your fear of abandonment and your self-worth, pushing you to work harder, give more, endure more, just to prove you're good enough. But here's the brutal truth. You can never win, because their goal isn't to choose someone better, it's to keep you desperate for their approval, forever chasing validation that never comes. So what's the impact of these weapons? They don't just control your behavior, they invade your mind. They chip away at your self-esteem, make you question your worth. You start to ask yourself, am I really the problem? Am I not good enough? Do I actually need them to survive? And that's their greatest victory, turning you into your own jailer, someone who stays willingly in the prison they built. But don't lose hope. These walls are not impenetrable. They can be torn down. And that brings us to the most important part, how you can break free, starting with one simple but powerful thing: distance. If closeness is the lifeline of a narcissist, the oxygen that keeps their fire of manipulation burning, then distance is the blade that cuts it off, relentlessly and without mercy. Distance isn't just walking out of a room, blocking a number, or deleting them from your friend list. But that cycle only works when they can interact with you in real time, when they can text you at midnight, look you in the eye and hurl a cutting insult, or stay silent just long enough to make you question yourself. When you put distance between you, when there are no more surprise calls, no more endless arguments, they can't pull the lever anymore. The cycle collapses, and when it collapses, you start to breathe again. You realize you don't need their approval to feel worthy, a truth they try to bury under layers of manipulation. But that's just the surface. Distance does something deeper. It restores your clarity, powerfully, irreversibly, and completely. When you're close to them, your mind is wrapped in fog, a thick haze they create to keep you in a state of constant confusion. Everything they say, every twisted version of reality they feed you, seems plausible because you don't have the time or space to question it. They make you believe you're the problem, that you're overreacting, that your memory is unreliable. But when you step away, when days, weeks, or even months pass without hearing their voice or feeling their presence, the fog begins to lift. You start to look back and ask, wait, why did I believe I was the issue? Why did I let them define my worth? Why did I accept those lies as truth? Distance is the light that cuts through the darkness they try to keep you in. It gives you the space to see the contradictions, the cracks, the absurdities you once overlooked. In a world that values critical thinking and clarity, this is your turning point. You reclaim your mind, no longer led by their invisible hand. And here's the most important part. the part that exposes their true nature. Distance strips away the mask of confidence they wear and reveals their utter dependence on you. They may act aloof, strong, as if they don't need anyone, but that's a carefully crafted illusion. They have no real identity, only a false shell built from admiration, fear, or obedience from others. You were their supply, the source of fuel for their ego, and when you leave, when you stop feeding that ego, they are left staring into the void within themselves, a hollow emptiness they can't bear. Think about it. Why do they panic when you pull away? Why do they suddenly send sweet messages, tearful apologies, or, on the flip side, spread vile rumors about you to anyone who will listen? That's not strength, it's desperation, the desperation of someone losing the only thing that keeps them standing. They can't handle being ignored because your silence is a brutal reminder that they're not as important as they thought. They're like a fire with no wood. Without you, they burn out. So how do you create effective distance? The best strategy is no contact, a simple concept that requires ironclad discipline and unwavering commitment to yourself. Block their number. Remove them from every platform. Decline every meeting, every message, no exceptions, no just one last time. This isn't punishment for them, it's a gift to yourself. It's the first step toward reclaiming control of your life. If total no contact isn't possible, maybe because of shared responsibilities like children or work, go low contact. Keep communication to the bare minimum, brief, neutral, emotionless. Don't argue, don't explain, don't let them drag you into drama. Just keep mental distance, even when physical proximity is unavoidable. Think of yourself as a rock in the middle of a river. They can throw whatever they want at you, but you don't flinch. You don't react. But here's what you need to be mentally prepared for. They won't let go easily. When they sense their control slipping, they'll escalate. Hard. They may pretend to be kind, send tear-filled apologies, promise change with a false sincerity that almost convinces you. Or they might attack, smear your name, play the victim, twist the narrative so you look like the villain. Don't mistake these tactics for strength. They're signs of collapse, the desperate cries of someone losing everything. They're scrambling to pull you back in, to restore the fuel they need to survive. But if you hold the line, if you maintain your distance, they can't reach you anymore. They'll scream, they'll rage, they'll try, but eventually they'll run out of energy. Because without you, they have nothing left. Distance is the first step in breaking their power. It shakes the very foundation they relied on. It exposes the weakness they've spent so long trying to hide. But to be truly free, to ensure they never find a way back in, you need one more thing: emotional detachment. That's the final blade, and we're going to sharpen it right now. Physical distance is the first blow, the first brick pulled from the narcissist's wall of power, but on its own it's not enough. Emotional detachment is the final strike, the spiritual weapon that renders them powerless, leaving them with no way to cling to you anymore. Understand this clearly. They don't just feed on proximity, they feed on your reactions. Every emotion you give them, love, anger, guilt, fear, is fuel for their manipulation. The lifeblood of their control machine. Detachment isn't about ignoring them or pretending they don't exist. It's about cutting off that fuel supply, refusing to play a game that was rigged against you from the very beginning. When you master this, they have nothing left to hold on to. They become a faint shadow, no longer powerful enough to shape your reality. Let's break down how their emotional game operates, because understanding it is the first step to dismantling it. Everything they do is designed to provoke a reaction from you, like a puppeteer tugging at strings just to watch you dance. When they praise you, you were amazing for doing that, you feel relief, even gratitude, like you've finally earned a blessing after long being neglected. When they criticize, you always screw things up. You feel anger, shame, or self-doubt, falling into a carefully arranged chain of emotional dominoes. When they go silent, ignore your messages or disappear without explanation, you feel anxious, wondering what you did wrong. blaming yourself for things beyond your control. None of this is accidental. It's a calculated strategy designed to keep you in a state of emotional chaos. They need your reaction, because your reaction is proof they still have control. Proof they're still the center of your world. So, what is detachment? It's not apathy. Apathy is indifference. It's passive. Detachment is an intentional act of will, a powerful choice. It's when you observe their behavior like a scientist observing an experiment, objectively, without being pulled in, without letting it touch your heart or hijack your mind. Imagine watching a storm from a distance. You see the lightning, you hear the thunder, but you don't run out into the chaos. With a narcissist, you learn to stand outside their storm, not as someone pulled into the center of their drama, but as an observer. You don't argue, you don't cry, you don't beg. You simply watch and let them burn out in the fire of their own chaos. So how do you develop this detachment? First, you must recognize the cycle. See through the facade they've built. Their kindness isn't genuine. It's bait, a sweet treat tossed after a slap designed to keep you coming back for more. The pain they cause isn't random. It's engineered to keep you dependent, to make you seek relief from the very person who hurt you. They don't love you, they don't hate you, they want to control you, and everything they do serves that goal. When you fully understand that every word, every gesture is part of the same manipulation game, you can move to the next step, emotional neutrality. When they say, "You're awful for doing this," don't argue, don't explain, don't let rage or hurt rise up inside you. Simply say, "I understand," or "That's your opinion," and stop there. These short, flat responses are like a steel wall. They throw everything at it, but nothing sticks, nothing penetrates. Without fuel, they lose direction, and that's when you begin reclaiming your power, not by fighting, but by refusing to play. But here comes the hardest, most crucial part. You must let go of hope, the hope that they'll change. Many people stay trapped in the narcissist's orbit because they believe that if they try hard enough, are patient enough, love deeply enough, the narcissist will wake up, apologize, become the person they've always hoped for. Face this cold truth. They are not capable of that transformation, not because you're not good enough, but because they lack the self-awareness and empathy required to see the harm they've done. In a world that teaches us that anyone can change if they want to, this truth is hard to accept, but accepting it is the key to your freedom. They can't give you closure, because to do so would mean admitting defeat, letting go of the false self they've spent a lifetime building. When you stop waiting for recognition, for justice, for an apology that will never come, you are no longer bound by the illusion. You don't need them to close your story. You close it yourself, and that is your greatest power. The impact of detachment is profound and lasting. It doesn't just protect you from them, it rebirths you from within. When you no longer react to them, you realize you never needed their approval to be whole. You regain the ability to make decisions without fear of judgment, to feel without needing someone to validate those feelings, to live without needing anyone to define who you are. This is true freedom, not just freedom from them, but freedom from the version of yourself they tried to turn you into. You are no longer their puppet. You are the one holding the strings, and this time you pull them for yourself. But don't mistake this for an easy journey. It's not a straight path. They'll feel it when you detach, and they'll escalate to pull you back in, using every ounce of desperation they have left. They may create more chaos, stage fake crises, or spin tragic stories to make you feel guilty. Or they may attack more viciously, smearing your name to anyone who'll listen, painting you as the villain just to force you into defending yourself. This is your final test, your trial by fire. If you hold firm, if you refuse to re-enter their game, they will fail. They have nothing without your reaction, and when you take that away, they become an empty shell, a scream echoing into a void, with no one left to answer. Emotional detachment is the final blade. It severs the spiritual cord they've tied to you, leaving them with nothing but the emptiness they've tried to fill by controlling you. But your journey doesn't end here. Now comes the most powerful part: rebuilding, taking your life back, stepping into a future where they no longer exist. You've created distance. You've broken the physical chains they used to keep you within reach. You've detached emotionally, severing the spiritual cord they used to manipulate your mind. Now it's time to reclaim your life, to heal from the scars the narcissist left behind and build a stronger, freer version of yourself. They didn't just control you while you were near, they left behind invisible wounds, deep cuts in your mind and heart, self-doubt, guilt, loss of identity. This journey isn't a sprint. It's a slow, deliberate, and sometimes painful process, but it's the only path that leads not just to survival, but to wholeness, to living fully with all the strength you thought you had lost. The first step is recognizing the damage, and this is often the hardest part, the part many avoid because it forces you to look straight into the darkness. What you went through wasn't just a bad relationship or something you should get over, because it didn't leave bruises on your skin. It was emotional abuse, a dangerous form of harm that works in silence, carving itself into your soul where no one else can see. You might tell yourself, "I'm fine," or "I should be over this by now." But pause and face the truth. That hesitation before every decision, that feeling of never being good enough no matter how hard you try, that fear of setting boundaries because you're afraid of being the bad guy, those aren't part of who you naturally are. Those are the scars they left etched in over years of manipulation, through words and actions designed to make you feel small. Recognizing them isn't a sign of weakness. It's the first step toward healing. It's an acknowledgement that you were wounded and that you deserve to recover. Take time to look in the mirror. Not the one they held up to distort your reflection, but your own mirror, and see those wounds not with shame, but as the beginning of your restoration. Next, you must unravel the toxic beliefs they planted in your mind, the lies they disguised as truth, the invisible chains they wrapped around your spirit. "You're not good enough," they repeated, until you began saying it to yourself. "You need me to survive," they insisted, until you believed the world outside was too big, too frightening for you to face alone. They programmed you to feel weak, dependent, like you were just a shadow that could only exist in their light. But here's a truth you need to carve into your heart, so deeply it becomes a part of you. You were never the problem. They made you a victim of your own thoughts, but you can rewrite that programming. Not with force, but with choice. Start small but intentionally. Make a decision without needing anyone's approval. Even something as simple as taking a new route to work or saying no to something you don't want to do. Set a small boundary. Say no to something you used to agree to out of fear of rejection. Every act is a brick laid in the rebuilding of your self-confidence, living proof that you are strong, that you never needed them the way they wanted you to believe. This isn't revenge. This is rebirth. Then comes the emotional part, the part many people skip because it hurts, but it's unavoidable if you want true freedom. They left chaos within you, anger at being deceived, grief over lost time and energy, disappointment in yourself for believing promises they never intended to keep. Don't bury those feelings. Don't pretend they're not there, because if you suppress them, they'll silently eat away at you from the inside. Face them, one by one. Write them down. Pour every messy thought onto a page. No filters, no edits, no restraints. Talk to a trusted friend, someone who will listen without judgment, without trying to fix you. Or just sit with yourself in silence and let it come. Let the anger rise, let the sadness flow, let the disappointment dissolve. In a world that often tells us to suppress our negative emotions, this may feel foreign, but this is your strength. This is how you release what they trapped inside you. This is how you reclaim your heart. Only when you've processed those emotions, when you've let yourself feel anger, grieve, and then release, can you truly move forward, free from the ghost of their influence in every step you take. Finally rebuild, not just by restoring what was lost, but by creating something better, stronger, and untouchable. They tried to erase your identity, the passions they mocked, the beliefs they twisted, the relationships they damaged. Now it's time to find those pieces again and add new ones you never dared to explore. Return to the things you loved, painting, running, music, whatever once brought you joy before they called it pointless. Rebuild your trust in your own intuition. Make decisions without needing external approval, whether it's choosing a book or changing the course of your life. And find healthy relationships, people who respect your boundaries, who don't turn them into battlegrounds, who don't require you to sacrifice your soul just to be loved. You don't need them to survive. You never did. This is your chance to live as your true self, not the version they tried to define, but the one you choose to become. Take a step back and look at the journey. Distance shattered the physical chains, making them powerless to reach you, not just in space, but in control. Detachment severed the spiritual cord, stripping their grip from your mind, not just momentarily, but permanently. And healing handed you the key to your freedom, a door leading to a life you define, not one they dictated. They used to be the center of your world. Now they're nothing more than a fading shadow, a distant memory, with no power to shape who you are anymore. You didn't just survive, you reclaimed yourself. So now I leave you with this question. What will you do with your freedom? Not as a challenge, but as an invitation. If you've walked this path with me, you're not just a listener, you're a survivor, a warrior who has walked through the darkness and found your light again. Share your thoughts in the comments below. How has distance changed your life? What has made you stronger after everything you've endured? We're not just here to listen, we're here to rise, to live, and to prove that we are stronger than they ever imagined, and stronger than we ever believed we could be. We've come a long way, through more than just the minutes spent on a screen, but through the deepest corners of your heart and mind. From those first moments when you felt trapped in the nightmare of a narcissist, to now, standing at the threshold of your freedom, you've done what they never believed you could. You broke the chains, you severed the cords, and you found yourself again. This isn't just the end of a video, this is the beginning of a life where you hold the pen, writing your own story, no longer shaped by someone else's hands. Take a moment, truly feel this. You are no longer the person they used to see. They saw you as fuel, as a tool to fill the void in their fragile ego. But you are so much more. Stronger, deeper, brighter than they could ever comprehend. Every step you've taken, from creating distance to reclaim your space, to emotionally detaching to protect your soul, and finally to healing and rebuilding your true self, is proof of a power they could never control. They lived through control. You thrive through freedom. They needed you to survive, but you never needed them to shine. That is your greatest difference and your greatest victory. But freedom isn't just about breaking away from them. It's about stepping into a world where you are allowed to be yourself, without fear, without doubt, without apologizing for existing. Imagine your life as a vast open field, once trampled by their presence, but now each blade of grass is growing back, each flower blooming under the sunlight you found on your own. You have the right to dream without being ridiculed, to love without being manipulated, and to fail without being judged. You have the right to rise after every fall, not to prove anything to them, but to remind yourself that you deserve every chance to begin again. And I want you to carry this with you as you walk away from here. You are the light they could never extinguish. They tried to bury you in their darkness, but darkness can never win, not when the light keeps burning and you have burned, not with destruction, but with life, hope, and courage. They may have made you question that once, but never again. You have risen not by bringing them down, but by lifting yourself up. One brave choice, one small step at a time. So when you turn off this video, don't let it be just a passing thought. Let it be the flame within you, a quiet, steady fire that reminds you you are stronger than they ever said, you are worth more than they ever gave, and your life belongs to you, not to them. Step out into the world, breathe deeply and live. Not just as a survivor, but as a victor. The world is waiting for you, and this time you get to define it on your own terms.